Welcome back to Economic Development Unraveled, a channel dedicated to investigate, solve, and explain economic development. There is a great disparity in the global living standards. It becomes very clear when we see that about 75% of the global wealth today is held together by the industrialized nations. But the combined population of these nations makes up less than 800 million. In other words, less than 10% of the global population. On the other hand, China's economic ascent in the last 4 decades means that things are going to change. Soon, China will become part of the high-income country group, joining with the rest of the industrialized nations. With China joining them, the industrialized nations will together hold 85% of the global wealth, leaving just 15% with the rest of the 75% of the global population. The bottom line is that much of the global wealth, as it stands accumulated, shows no signs of any drastic change in distribution. How did we get here? It all goes back to the Industrial Revolution. The discovery of scientific principles by Michael Faraday, Nikola Tesla, and many other scientists created a breakthrough in human existence. Their discoveries had enabled other smart people to invent completely new products through the application of science to solve everyday problems. From that point onwards, North America, Western Europe, Australia, and Japan had remained at the forefront of industrialization and economic development. The European nations and the United States became vastly richer and wealthier. The United Kingdom, France, West Germany, and Japan suffered massive wealth destruction during the Second World War. But they had quickly rebuilt by the 1970s and regained their wealth through high GDP growth rates. On the other hand, many regions in Asia and Africa have gained independence from the European powers only after the end of the Second World War. These newly independent nations, most of them located in the global south, in Africa and South Asia, such as Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Ethiopia, Nigeria, India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and many other nations had remained poor and underdeveloped. These nations had a very large share of the population living under extreme poverty. After more than half a century since that point, and in the case of India about 70 years since it became a republic, these nations have made only modest progress on economic development. They are yet to close the gap with the developed nations. That is why the early industrialized Western nations and Japan remain the wealthiest by far even to this day, commanding 75% global wealth share. But there were exceptions. Taiwan, South Korea, and China. Beginning in the early 1960s, both South Korea and Taiwan, and from the early 1980s, China, have rapidly developed within a span of 35 years, much faster and in a more compact timeline compared to the Western nations. Together these 3 Asian nations command up to 15% of the global wealth. How did they do that? Economists couldn't explain why only few nations succeeded and others failed at economic development. They had failed to uncover the reason behind the greatest improvement in human life standards across the board in the shortest time anywhere in the world. Everywhere you look, it is obvious that all these nations lack capital and technology. Economists want these nations to implement growth-oriented policies to develop rapidly. Well, what are those policies? Depending on the decade, the economists had a different answer. In the 1980s, they said, the key to growth lies in savings and productivity. In the 1990s, they said, knowledge, human capital, and innovation remain the key growth factors. In the 2000s, it would be institutions that holds the key. In the 2010s, it was trade. The economists are clueless. They had failed to crack economic growth and economic development, and the incredible transformation of Northeast Asia. Since only few nations on their own had managed to close the gap, the Western nations and Japan remained the wealthiest by far even to this day. Not all is lost. New thinking has emerged. Breakthrough discoveries in the realms of how underdeveloped nations can acquire technology and grow their economies faster means the story is going to take a dramatic turn soon. That's it for today. If you want to learn more about the content in this video and the new thinking that has emerged in economics, get a copy of the upcoming The General Theory of Rapid Economic Development book. You'll find the link in the description. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button below. Subscribe to this channel if you want to watch more quality content like this.